Thank you very much for the opportunity to come here. Quick question. Prior to hearing about this, does anybody actually know what cricket is? You do? Do you want to share with me any knowledge? No?
The only thing I know it lasts like 3 days. I never get past a couple hours.
It's 5 days.
5 days.
But it can do, depending on what you're playing. But at grassroots level, absolutely not. But that is one of the formats.
Wind up.
The bowling?
Yeah.
Okay.
The whole thing.
What I'm going to try and do is give a brief overview of the basics of the sport. I want to delve into a little bit of cricket's history actually and how it made it over to this neck of the woods. And then I'll bring in how Revelstoke fits into all of that and talk about the current iteration of the club and what our plans are and our project as a whole. So cricket is a bat and ball game played between 2 teams of 11 players on a cricket field. Now at the centre of which is a rectangular 22-yard long pitch with a wicket. Now a wicket is a set of 3 wooden stumps and you have a wicket at each end of that pitch. One team bats, attempting to score as many runs as possible while their opponents field. Each phase of play is called an innings. You have 2 innings in the match. After 10 batsmen have been dismissed or a fixed number of overs have been completed, the innings will then end and the 2 teams will then swap roles. The winning team is the one that has scored the most runs, including any extras gained during the innings. So cricket's roots can be traced as far back to Norman Saxon times in southeast England, with the first references found in the year 1611. Introduced to much of the Commonwealth via English colonies in the 17th and 18th centuries, in 1844 the first ever international cricket match was held between 2 countries. Can anybody guess which 2 it was?
India and England.
No.
Oh.
India and Australia.
No.
India and Pakistan.
No.
India and England.
No, it's not India, it's not England, it's not Australia. It's not Pakistan.
Canada.
Yeah, and who was the other team?
Wow.
United States.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Really?
So in 1844, it was a match played between Canada and the USA at the St. George's Cricket Club in New York.
Oh my word.
And this was played a full 30 years before the most prestigious cricket series of all began, which is the series between England and Australia called the Ashes. Coincidentally, this series is actually going on right now in England, and it's a 5-match series. England are 1-0 down, but I'm confident we'll beat the old enemy with 4 games to go. So, we can give them a good hiding. But cricket in Canada continued to grow through the late 1800s, and it's here in 1892 that not only was the Canadian Cricket Association formed to control the game nationally, but it is also the year that the Revelstoke Cricket Club was formed. Now the club was a constant fixture, if you'll pardon the pun, until 1938. Now during that time the team played mostly on a field at the foot of Mount Revelstoke. This is believed to be where the current Ramada and Fairfield hotels are. Records show the club played against many neighbouring towns who also had teams, including Golden, Salmon Arm, Vernon, Armstrong and Kelowna. The team back then showed quite a close relationship with the railway. There's pictures that you can find in the archives of a pavilion, cricket pavilion, entitled the Canadian Pacific Railway Cricket Pavilion here in Revelstoke. During this period, an Okanagan League also ran with many of the mentioned teams involved. Now I will come to the revival of the current version of the cricket team in just a moment, but I want to talk about why cricket. Partners of cricket players will often complain about the time that it takes to play a game. Why would you want to spend all day standing in a field? Those who don't know it or even like it will use the phrase, "It's like watching paint dry." For me, you actually have to look at the painting itself to see the real enjoyment in cricket. Each game of cricket at any level for me is a story, and within that story is 1,000 other stories. Stories of drama, tension, excitement, growth, despair, hope, loss and inclusion. Anyone who watched the first Ashes match last week will testify to that, but let's use an example a little bit closer to home. So it's last Sunday, and at 11 a.m. sharp, the time that Revelstoke is due to kick off on its second ever match since reforming against the Kelowna Casuals. The heavens open with torrential downpour. A full team of 11 Revelstokians, supported by several other of our club members, are all ready to go. Some even made the 2.5-hour trip down the night before, so they were all ready and fresh for the game. And now that sense of eager anticipation slips into a feeling of doubt and worry. Will the rain stop? Can we start on time? How will the weather affect the playing conditions? What's a good score? Do we change our game plans? We eventually get out there, and we are overwhelmed with excitement. We're playing on an actual cricket pitch. We don't have one of those here in Revelstoke. This is a new experience for many of our players. Can we make an early impact and put the pressure on them? The excitement gives way to nerves in some, while others thrive, keeping the scores low to begin with, but some wobbly hands and legs in the field. Chances are missed, and now the tide turns towards the opposition. Then back to us. We make some inroads before the momentum gets thwarted by Mother Nature once again. Right, time for lunch and a cup of tea until the rain blows over. I'll pause it there. I'm going to show you a little brief 45-second video to show you what I'm referring to. Can everyone see that, or is it all breathe it in?
So when you played the morning session, Matt,
Yeah.
does it end on a time? Is that how it works?
No, so depending on the format and the level, I mean, on a grassroots level like ours, you're not going to play the multi-day format. It's on a one day. There's varying lengths that you can play. Normally, when you get halfway through one innings, you might stop for drinks, especially if it's a hot day. But as a general rule of thumb, between the two innings is when we would stop for lunch. You know, that's when you have the break. In the situation on the weekend, the rain kept on coming. It was dragging things out, so we took an early lunch so that then we could just plough through with the rest of the game afterwards. Okay. Now, all of what I just mentioned and that video right there is just a sneak peek into what was an incredibly thrilling day and an important one for our club. Now, if you want to see that in its entirety, you can head to Alpine Cricketer on YouTube and search Batting in Canada.
So it's 1 day or 5?
This is a 1 day. So a 5 day is what we refer to as a test match. Now, the test matches are only played at international level. At the grassroots level like this, we're only ever going to play a 1 day game, and within that there's two kind of main formats. One which is called a 20-20, which is 20 overs a side. That game roughly is going to last about 3.5 hours. Then the other one could be anywhere between 40 to 50 overs, and that maybe lasts about 6 or 7. At the grassroots level, when you're playing friendly games, you kind of come to an agreement on what works for both, because people have work, people have families, people even have other things to get on with. So what can you arrange to make it the most beneficial and enjoyable for everyone? So that highlights the GoPro. So the channel is one of the many mechanisms right now that myself and some of the other directors are using to promote the sport and document this multicultural community project that we've got going on. So we've probably had more airtime on Stoke FM than most clubs. Probably the only other one would be the Grizzlies, you know, with them being the winter sport to go and see. And our column inches are growing by each edition in the paper. Now, all of this noise is for a very good reason. Cricket in Revelstoke is back, and it's not going away. Our goal is to move away from being that group that plays on the patch of dirt on 3rd Street, and to become a fully functioning club in the community that plays matches regularly throughout the summer, promotes the sport to locals of all ages and sexes, increasing regional and cultural tourism, and much more. Cricket is a beautiful spectator sport, and what better place to do it with the beautiful mountain backdrop and crystal blue river running through. Now, right now there are groups like ourselves in Samanar, Vernon and many other towns across the interior, all with one significant problem: nowhere to play. In short, to play cricket correctly, you require a 22-yard pitch, which is made up of a combination of very unique materials that is unfamiliar to many Canadian groundsmen and parks of today. However, we have spelled it out to the necessary local parties in town, and we're eagerly awaiting hopeful approval of our next step. Salmon recently had their pitch unanimously approved for construction, so the race is on. I just want to finish on one final thing. In recent years, 5 million people have immigrated to Canada from cricket-playing nations, myself included. It's now the fastest growing sport in Canada. Plans are in place to build a $35 million cricket stadium in Brampton. In just a few weeks, the franchise competition, the GT20, will return to that same area, bringing global superstars from England, India, Pakistan and South Africa. Cricket's old history in Canada is lost to time, but it is now being replaced by new stories of growth and revival. Here in our little mountain town, Revelstoke Cricket Club is determined to create history of its own. Thank you. Happy?
Any questions for Matt?
I think the most complicated part of it is the scoring.
Yeah.
And so I don't know how you would shorten that up.
Well, there are the thing about cricket, to anyone who's not played before, there's so many different nuances and internals, but at its simplest, there's always two batsmen at one time. You have your team score, but then each batsman has an individual score.
Okay.
And the bowlers also have a score which is affected by the batsman's score and the team score. So, if I highlight the scores from the weekend, Kelowna batted first. As a team, they scored 273 runs from their 35 overs, which is a lot, I'll tell you now. They lost 3 wickets, which means that our fielding team were able to take 3 wickets. 2 of them were bowled, 1 was run out. Within their side, they actually had one guy who scored 101 of that 273 by himself. And then 2 other members each scored 50. So you have the ability as an individual to make a large contribution to the outcome of the game, but at the same time it's also a team effort, and your individual contribution has an effect on that. So that's why it welcomes people from all different styles and levels, because everyone can have their own impact.
Right.
So the score was 273-2.
So it was 273 runs with 3 wickets. So we might say in cricket terms, we'd say, it was 3 for 273. So 3 wickets for 273 runs. Fast forward to our innings, we have a number of our guys doing this for the very, very first time. The rain had a big part on the ability to bat. We were all out in the end, so we lost all of our 10 wickets for 104 runs. So what that would mean on a result side is you'd say that Kelowna won by 170 runs.
Right.
Yeah. If we'd taken a few other catches and other couple of chances, it probably would have been a lot less, but the point of the day was introducing our guys to the type of cricket with the facilities that we would like to have here. Yeah.
And what's a run? Like, what constitutes 1 run versus like
Okay.
100 runs?
So 1 run would constitute both batsmen crossing and reaching the other wicket at the other end. So for example, let's say I'm the batter that's facing the bowler coming in. I hit the ball. I call to my opposite man to run. So I can't just run on my own, he's got to run with me. I go to that end, he goes to that end. So providing we both get to that other end and neither one of us has run out, that will constitute 1 run.
273 times that happened.
Yes. Now, there are ways where you can score bigger points without having to do as much running. And that favours some more than others. So we have something called boundaries. Cricket, the outfield is circular in nature. It's quite big often. It's a lot bigger than baseball fields. And the boundary might be just a rope on the edge of that, or it could be flags. If you can hit the ball completely over that boundary without it hitting the ground, that is what we would call 6 runs. And there's a unique signal to that, so the umpires that are out there in the middle would signal something like this. And that means that the people who are scoring the game up at the clubhouse will mark that down as 6 runs. It would be 6 runs to the batsman that hit it, 6 runs to the team's total. The other way is 4 runs. So 4 runs is where you hit the ball to the boundary, but it can bounce multiple times, it can roll along the ground. 4 is that signal. You'll see the umpires do that. Some of the more flamboyant ones will try and do like that, and they each have their own little kinks and unique ways of doing it. And again, similar thing. That adds 4 more. If you're really getting complex, then you get into things like extras. So if a bowler bowls a wayward ball that just is nowhere landing on the pitch, that's a wide. So you signal that, and that's 1 run to the team's total. Not 1 to the batsman because the batsman hasn't hit it. So there's ways to penalise bowlers for bad bowling. There's ways to reward the batsman for good batting.
That helps, thank you.
Okay, sure.
How many go in on the cricket club?
Well, right now we have minimum of 20 people. We got set up as a non-for-profit in the winter. So we're official. There's 3 directors, 2 others would be Daniel and Prajesh, so a fella from India, a fella from New Zealand, so really mixed bunch of guys. And at this stage we're slowly but surely trying to build up the membership. It's a very new experience for a lot of the guys who, the group has actually been down there for 3 or 4 years, just playing with tennis balls, sort of in a relaxed environment. But when myself and a few others came last year and we organised the first game, there was a lot of appetite amongst people. So it's a gradual process right now where we're actually trying to explain to a lot of guys down there how we need to actually register you guys and to be able to document. It's hard to track a lot of them because everybody works in very different jobs right now. A lot of our guys either work in hospitality and tourism. We have people that work for CPR. A lot of guys working in the gas stations, in the liquor stores, driving the buses around town, and work schedules sort of limit that ability right now to sort of track it exactly. But how we're using to cope that is by having these matches now. We're launching a couple more social events where we can actually start to build a bit of a club culture and people can actually get to know one another. Whereas like right now, up until recently, a lot of people would just come down so that they can have a hit and a throw for 2 hours and then they go back. Bit by bit there's a core group of us forming now where we know each other a little bit more, we sort of kind of showing that passion for the game, and hopefully that grows. And I'm confident that should our project come to fruition, from my experience of being around, that number of registered players could easily grow to 40 to 50 if we can get what we're after. Yeah.
So Matt, I saw actually very nice meals being served.
Yes.
It's not the usual hot dogs and Subway
No.
sandwiches. There's actually a barbecue. There's some
We
very
were
proper.
Yeah, we were really treated to some splendid hospitality by Kelowna Casuals. So Kelowna is the same team that we played last year. The relationship all came about through myself and one of their directors exchanging contacts and us wanting to arrange this first game. They said, well look, we're the home team, so we're hosting. Where I play back home in the UK, you're very used to sort of bringing a $10 or $20 with you, or even bringing the food to contribute to the tea. But Kelowna, not only did someone go and smoke a bunch of chickens the night before for the lunch break, but then as you saw after the game, they came out with a big tub of steaks, cracked that on the barbecue, and they said, no, this is us, we're hosting you. So at that grassroots community level, the social side of cricket is just as, if not more important, because it's vital for the enjoyment of the day. For us, 2.5 hours is a very long drive, so it was about us all having an experience for the guys and wanting them to enjoy it. And everybody, regardless of the result, came back with a huge smile on the face. Everybody wants to know when the next game is. Everybody realises that if we can get our facilities built correctly here, we can host them and then we can treat them. We can create a unique Revelstoke cricket experience, because there's not many cricket grounds you could have in the world with mountains and rivers and beautiful, scenery just right on the doorstep like that. So the opportunity to do something like that for visiting teams would be huge. a lot of these towns have probably never heard of cricket recently. They probably don't know what it is, although they might have seen a small group of people playing it. To try and explain to them what's a cricket pitch, what are the dimensions of a cricket ground, what are the unique requirements of it, and then to try and deal with, well, how do you fit that in with
Baseball.
diamond fields, yes, and soccer pitches. So it's unique, but we're keen to persevere even if this doesn't lead to fruition. But we'll keep at it.
Was there ever a thought that baseball and cricket were very similar, and did one come before the other, or are they two different things?
I don't think they've ever competed. There does seem actually at an international level right now seem to be a bit of a marketing push to maybe target the fans of one of those sports and bring them over to the other, and vice versa. I think the Blue Jays right now are doing something in connection with this upcoming franchise cricket competition.
Right.
I think they've got one of the global West Indies superstars who is going to actually be at this stadium, and they've basically said, well, the first 16,000 people that enter into the Blue Jays stadium are getting a free jersey.
That's the Jamaican dude, right?
Chris Gale.
Yeah.
One of the all-time greats in cricket. So,
Oh,
yeah.
he's a Jamaican fellow.
He's from one of the Caribbean islands. I'm not entirely sure which one.
Oh,
But my brother met him as a kid once, and he was like 6 foot
Big guy.
plus, and a big fella.
well, Brampton is mostly East Indians, so I can see where
Yes.
that would be the area.
Yeah, I mean, and a lot of the councilmen, the mayors have got verbally behind it and backed it because it makes sense for that community.
Yeah, right.
You know, so yeah.
That's great.
That's awesome.
Thanks, Matt.
Guys, cheers.